Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Growth Moments. Last week I was talking to a local businessman who's a friend of mine, and he asked me a very important question. He said, Gary, what is it that you think is one of the biggest lessons that people should be learning as a result of this whole pandemic? And my answer to him was very straightforward. I said, Tom, I think that people need to learn to think long and not short. And here's what I mean by that. If we were to go back and look at the statistics, the individual financial statistics in our economy prior to the pandemic, here's what we'd find. 78% of people were living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of the people were carrying at least, if not more than $10,000 in credit card debt. And 54% of people said that it would be a major financial challenge for them if they had an emergency in their lives that cost them more than $1,000. Now, I'm sure that the pandemic has not improved those numbers. But those numbers were disappointing, to say the least, because here we are, we live in the wealthiest and most prosperous nation in the world, and yet 78% of the people in this country live from paycheck to paycheck. Why is that? Well, at least one of the reasons behind that is that people think short and not long. We're thinking about today and maybe tomorrow, maybe even for this year. But very, very rarely do you run into people who think longer than that. Let's look at the whole thing of having credit card debt. Why is it that so many people in this country have amassed such credit card debt? I mean, I know people who have $200,000 of credit card debt. Why is that? I think the reason behind it is that we've confused needs and wants. We all have needs, things that we have to have in order to be able to survive in life. And certainly, as everybody knows, we have to spend money in order to be able to satisfy those needs. But here's what's happened. When we see something that we want and we can't afford it, what we've done is we've conditioned ourselves to convince our minds that it's something that we really need. And once we have made that transition, once we've crossed that bridge, we've now translated it into a need, and we have to find a way to get it. So what do? We go out and we put it on a credit card. So that $4,000 8K TV that you'd really like to have, it's a want, it's not a need, but you convince yourself that it's a need because of all of the wonderful things that it's going to do for you and your family, but you don't have the money to pay for it, so you go out and you put it on your credit card, and at the time you do that, you're not thinking about the fact that that $4,000 TV is going to cost you $10,000 by the time you finish paying for it. In contrast to that, I want to tell you a story about one of my dearest friends in the world. He came to this country at age 18 from Eastern Europe, and he had virtually everything going against him. He didn't have a place to live. He didn't speak the language. He had very little money. He had no job. Shortly after arriving here, he was drafted into the military in order to fight in World War II, and he became a disabled American veteran. After he got out of the service, he started his career washing dishes in the back of a restaurant. He never made very much money in his entire working career. But at age 62, when he retired, he was a multimillionaire. Now people will say, how is that possible? How could he have done that? Well, the answer is really simple. He thought long and not short. He wasn't only thinking about today to meet the needs of his family today, but he was thinking about future generations. He was thinking about the lives of his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren, and the legacy that he was going to leave for them. So he had a completely different mindset. What about you? Do you think short, or do you think long? Are you living just for today, or are you planning for the future? What about other members of your family? What about your neighbors and other people you know? 78% of the people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. We need to start thinking long. When I bring this subject up with people, a lot of times they'll say, but Gary, I've amassed a lot of debt, but I don't know what to do. It seems like I'm in this bottomless pit and I don't have any hope to be able to dig out. Let me tell you, friends, there's hope. There is hope. I have helped many people get out of debt and begin building a life and a legacy that excites them and drives them forward. You can do the same thing. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Let's have a dialogue. I can help you solve your financial problems. This is Gary Smith. God bless you today. Go live your life on purpose, and I'll see you next time.